Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all my Cardfight Vanguard Nectar deck profile for standard format, December 2018. Wanted to bring you guys all this deck profile as the first of the line from the ultra rare extra booster pack. It is the one that I was building actually out of the set, and out of the three, the one I was most excited about overall, just because of the new game mechanic that Nectar standard format introduced, which involves placing down tokens onto the field that you use as basically backup rear guards and just to gain boosts all over the field with your units. So a very interesting take on the deck as a whole. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. I'm missing a couple cards for the whole deck, but I'll say in the video which ones I would replace for them if I had more. So starting off early on, I only have the two of the White Lily Musketeer Cecilia. Now with it, I want to run 4 of this, so I'll show what grade 3 I would take out in a little bit for it to replace. It's one of your main grade 3s you run on the deck. It has a once per turn effect where you counterblast 1 and retire a rear guard. Look at 5 cards from the top of your deck, call up to 2 cards from among them to rear, and shuffle your deck. If your soul has a grade 3, you call up to 3 cards instead of 2, and the 3 units in your front row get +10 to the end of the turn. So it's a great setup card, just being able to call rear guards, basically milling through the deck to make sure you call those units, and then just have triggers set up as well. With the Nectar deck being Imaginary Gift Force, that plus power that you get from Cecilia's +10 effect by having the grade 3 in the soul is just an added bonus for sure. With the call effect, all you have to do is also retire a rear guard, and you'll get those call 3s. So very, very helpful in the deck for sure as your main grade 3. But for backup, I want to run 4 Maiden of Trailing Rose as well. Sadly, only have 2. So the last grade 3 I show will be the backup one as well. When placed, you call up to 1 plant token to rear. And if this unit is on Vanguard, you call up to 2 plant tokens instead of 1. Now, Cecilia doesn't really, use any effects that benefit calling tokens. You want to rely on all the other ones, and Maiden of Trailing Rose being able to do it from Vanguard or rear when placed for the plant tokens is very helpful for sure. And then her other effect is on Vanguard once per turn. You Soul Blast 1, and 3 of your plant tokens get +5 to the end of the turn. So all your plant tokens are also just +5,000 power in total when you use them. So being able to boost them up with her effect on Vanguard makes it very beneficial just when you have to ride Maiden of Trailing Rose for that option on your Vanguard circle to get plussed up power to them, so they have good boosts and attack overall themselves also. But other than that, moving on to the last grade 3 that we run in the deck. Now, I just run the Exploding Tomato in the deck because I don't have Cecilia's and Maiden of Trailing Rose. I might end up making a budget Nectar deck profile as well, involving Exploding Tomato and Maiden of Trailing Rose as the main cards you use, but still a very good backup for the fact that it has an Imaginary Gift force marker, and also just overall Vanguard or rear guard effects. And with it, its effects are once per turn, you can retire 2 plant tokens to draw a card, and this unit gets +10,000 to the end of the turn. And on rear, at the end of the battle that it attacked, retire this unit and call up to 2 plant tokens to your rear in the back row. So it's good setup for the draw power, and the plus alone with your force markers means you can hit some pretty big numbers with Exploding Tomato alone. And just with the retire effect to call plant tokens means you can keep consistency with your rear guards as well when you are using this card. But obviously I would take out the 4 of them for an additional 2 and 2 with Maiden of Trailing Rose and Cecilia to make it 4 Cecilia and 4 Maiden of Trailing Rose for the full deck profile, just because Maiden of Trailing Rose and Cecilia on Vanguard and rear guard effects are just a little more consistent overall in total. And moving on to the grade 2s, I run 4 Lily of the Valley Musketeer Kaivant. On rear, when placed, this unit gets +5,000 to the end of the turn for each of your grade 0 rear guards. It's good setup power-wise for sure. If you have the force marker on rear and you have 2 tokens, you can have Kaivant standing alone at 30,000 power. So that's only if you have the 2 tokens on the field. If you have even more, the better for his power up. Overall, good ride target as well, since he is a 10k base like all and most of the force grade 2s in total. And I also run 4 Spiritual Tree Sage. This one is another good rearguard backup. When placed, if you have 2 or more grade 0 rearguards, you counterblast 1, draw a card, and all of your units in the same column as this unit get plus 5,000 until the end of the turn. So basically the grade 0s are the tokens you'll call. So the counterblast 1, draw a card. It's just additional hand consistency, and then the same column power can really help with your tokens for boost for sure. And with the plus 5 and this card alone, I like to run 4 just for that draw power for sure. It helps very much so. And lastly, I want to run 3 or even 4. I've been considering just for the easy token power. Pansy Musketeer, Sylvia. Now with this one, it's a simple effect. When placed, you may call a plant token to rear, and it can be used on Vanguard or Rearguard. I have the 1 Maiden of Salix as backup for it until I get more, but it's good for the overall power of being able to get the tokens on the field consistently, since it can be used on Vanguard or Rearguard. And if I were to run 4, I would most likely take out 1 Kaivant and just run 3, just for the fact that Kaivant only really works on Rearguard. So when you ride on Vanguard, you don't benefit as much than if you were to call a Sylvia, obviously, on Vanguard as your ride, and when she has that Rearguard bonus as well. And that is it for the grade 2s. We'll now move on to the grade 1s. I want to run 4 Musketeer Rebecca. Like I said, missing a couple cards for the deck in total, but wanted to get the deck profile out as fast as I could for you all. This one is when placed on rear, one of your other grade 1 or less unit gets plus 5 until the end of the turn. So great setup with your tokens on the field, just for the boosts that you can do with all your different units, getting them up to big numbers. And at the end of your turn, you can Soul Blast 1 and retire a plant token and return this unit to your hand. So great for the bounce. Otherwise, if you're going up against some other retire effects, your opponent might retire them, so you can take care of those units. And then you can also just place this back into your hand to reuse next turn for your boosted plays. And I also run 4 of the Dandelion Musketeer Mirka. A Vanguard or Rearguard effect, when placed, you Soul Blast 1 and call a plant token to a rear in the same column as this unit. And on rear also, when your other Rearguard is placed in the same column as this unit gets plus 3,000 until the end of the turn. If you all remember the old Mirka, she had a boosted up power effect depending on when you shuffle the deck. I like the same column place so much better, just because it's much more consistent than if you have to shuffle the deck, obviously, which is what this standard deck does not do anymore unit-wise. But other than that, being able to use it with your tokens just means that the Rearguard call works out that much more. That's why I like to run 4 of it, because you'll have consistent columns when you use this card, and when you can boost it up with your other units, it's just all that much better. And I also run 4 Fruit Basket Elf. This one is a Soul Blast 1 and retire this unit. Call up to 2 plant tokens to rear, and your Vanguard is at grade 3 or greater. Those plant tokens get plus 5 until the end of the turn. So being able to call the tokens so consistently by just retiring this sets you up for all your other plays basically in the deck. It's why I like to run the 4 of the Fruits Basket Elf in the deck, just for that easy token call with this unit. And I also like to run 4 of the Corla Dragon. Now this one would most likely come out, or I would either remove 1 Fruits Basket Elf and 1 Corla Dragon to put in for the 4 Rebecca. So I could run 4 of this card. I would either maybe take out 1 and 1 or 2 of the Corla Dragons, just because of the fact that when your other Rearguard is placed by your card's ability, this unit gets plus 3,000 till the end of the turn. It's good power boost wise. You can hit bigger numbers with some of your other cards in the deck, including Cecilia. But you only have so many Rearguards in the Force deck, which is the one thing I'm sad about with Corla Dragon. And it has to be by your card's ability as well. Don't forget. So the plus 3 does help, but useful wise as some of the other cards, it's why I would probably reduce this card to the 2 for the other 2 Rebecca in the deck. And that is it for the grade 1s. We'll now move on to the grade 0s. For your starter, it is Broccolini Musketeer Kira, just the standard starter for standard format with the Rotopon draw effect. I'm really glad they made it a Musketeer, because when I go around and make my premium deck profile, I'm definitely going to be considering this just for the fact that it is a Musketeer and being able to Soul Blast it and then reuse it for all your other different abilities. And then for the trigger lineup, I run 8 critical, so 4 Night Queen, Musketeer, and Daniel, and 4 Chestnut Bullet. They really gave us a lot of Musketeer support compared, but still gave us some generic as well in the form of Chestnut Bullet. But I like to run the 8 critical, and for the draw triggers, I will run 4 Maiden of Blossom Rain, just have the Dancing Sunflowers in here until I can get the rest of them. But it'll also be the perfect card you use in the deck, since your grade 1 lineup is pretty tight just with all the other cards you can run. And I also run 4 Watering Elf, just the heal trigger in the deck. Pretty standard, like all the other heals for standard format. I gotta stop doing that double standard comment in the video. But that is it for the Neo Nectar deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Like I said, I'm definitely excited to get the other 2 deck profiles out to you all as well. I have friends working on those ones. So until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Qualia out.